What's up, everybody? In this episode, I'm going to talk about 10 things you need to do before you hire someone to help you with your eBay store. Please smash the like button and consider subscribing, because in all my videos, I show you guys tips and tricks to help you build an online store to help you gain financial freedom. Let's get into it. Tip number one is to simplify the categories that you sell in. I recommend selling no more than 3 categories. So my store, I do consider an everything store, but 90% of it is still clothing and shoes. So tops, bottoms, and shoes is 90% of my categories, and it's the only categories that I actually outsource. I do sell other things for fun, like watches or furniture, but it's difficult to train someone to do that because every single item is unique. And when somebody shows up for a job that you've posted and they don't know what they're doing, they're gonna easily be frustrated. Also, they're not gonna be that productive. They're gonna make mistakes. But if you just train one person to do one type of thing, they can go to work, and this is where you want to pay people. If you're trying to pay people minimum wage or an average wage, you can't expect them to be creative, because in my experience, creative work is worth a lot more than minimum wage. So minimum wage is for workers that do the same thing over and over and over again. So step number one is to simplify your process into 1 to 3 categories. Step number 2 is be able to do all the processes yourself first. I have all my processes written down the way that I do them, and that makes it a lot easier when I'm trying to train somebody to do it. I would consider you certified as a reseller if you can list an item, find it, prep it, photograph it, and put it away in about 12 minutes. So that's 5 per hour. If you can do 5 per hour, then you can start outsourcing tasks in your business. But if you can't do 5 an hour, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. When you hire someone, they need to basically copy you, and they're not going to do it as well as you. So I anticipate when I'm hiring somebody, they're going to be able to do it half as fast as I can. So if you want someone to be able to do 5 items an hour, you yourself need a clean enough process where you can do 10 an hour. That way your expectations are set correctly. I think a lot of people are actually hiring people hoping they can do it faster than they can, and that's just a reality I haven't found to be true in any person I've hired for any task. The categories that I think you should hire for first in this order. So I think photographs is the most modular. If you have a photo sequence of how you take photos, somebody else can replicate that. I would actually recommend you find a photographer, not necessarily an eBay photographer, but someone who's taking pictures for a wedding, or somebody who understands white balance is going to have an easy time. If you give a photographer the exact sequence of photos that you're looking for, they will be able to reproduce those photos for you perfectly. After photos, I recommend help with listing, and after that, I recommend help with cross-listing. Now keep in mind, 95% of people who run an eBay store do not need to hire help. Okay, you are just really running a side hustle. If you get into the habit of listing 15 items a day or less, I think you can do it yourself. I don't think you should hire someone, because recognize that there is a dip. So I have a link in my description below for reseller books that I recommend. There's a book by Seth Godin called The Dip. And this is a pretty common thing in all business and in all things in life. When you switch your attention from doing it yourself to hiring somebody else, you're not going to make more money. You actually will make less money, because you're losing your own productivity and giving it to someone whose productivity level is actually lower than yours. So unless you're hoping to get to like 200, 300 listings a week, I don't recommend you actually even hiring somebody. The one difference would be if you have sourcing on lock and you're already good at everything else, and you want to hire someone to do listing and shipping for you, but you just want to focus on the purchasing part, I would recommend doing that. But again, listing, cross-listing, photographing, those are the 3 things that I would outsource first. And I recommend hiring someone to just do one of those tasks at first. Don't confuse your person by having them do everything. Everyone in my company has started with one thing before they moved on to the next things. Trying to train everyone on everything is really difficult. Number 4 is reduce the pressure on yourself to find somebody to help you full time, and just reduce it to, let's say, 1 time a week or 3 times a week. It's easier to find someone that has availability for just 1 day. You're also going to get a much higher caliber person, because great people are usually already employed. So what I'm looking for is a great person that's already employed, that wants to make some extra money on the side. That's why I think you should try to cram all your listing really into 1 or 2 days, to give yourself the rest of the week to look for stuff, and eventually look for replenishables, which are items that sell over and over again that you don't have to list. Because listing items one at a time over and over again gets super exhausting. Eventually you want to buy stuff that you have 30 or 40 or 50 quantity of the same item, and that takes time. So if you can cram all your listing into 1 or 2 days a week, you can have the rest of the time to focus on sourcing. A pro tip, so please make sure you smash the like button again and consider subscribing, because I give you guys as much information I can in a short period of time as possible. Number 5 is make sure that you video record yourself doing something or screen share. So I actually use QuickTime Player, which is free, to record my screen whenever I'm doing something on my computer that I want somebody else to do. And I actually just set up a tripod in here and do something when I want to train someone to do something physically, because that way I can go back and review the video and just write down what I'm doing instead of trying to figure it out off the top of my head. It's much easier to just record yourself doing something, and in some cases you can actually just give this video to somebody else and they'll write the instructions for you. So make sure that you take the pressure off of you just figuring it out and just record yourself. Number 6 is when you put your ad up on Facebook or OfferUp or Nextdoor or Indeed.com, whatever job site that you use, make a simple test in the ad, and that will filter out all the people who just blanket email their resume to everyone, and all the people who are too lazy to take an extra 15 seconds to actually do it properly. What I like to do for photographs is just say, get an item from your closet, take a picture in this sequence, and then email to me, and that's it. That's the test. Most people who don't do that, I just completely eliminate, because if you put up an ad for slightly above market price, so let's say minimum wage in your area is $12, you put up an ad for $13.50. If they're not even willing to send you an email with a short test, they're not worth your time. You want to make it a little bit more difficult for somebody to actually apply. 7 is be patient. It usually takes me about 90 days to 6 months to get someone to the point where I don't have to worry about them. So don't be frustrated if they don't get it right away. You didn't get it right away. It probably took you a couple of months before you really knew exactly what you were doing, and you have a lot more invested. It's your money, your space, your time. And so you obviously care a lot more about your business than some random person that you just barely met. So give the person time. Ultimately, you want somebody that you don't have to worry about. This is really important, and it's definitely worth paying a little bit above market to not have to go back and redo the work that they did because it's not up to par. Train people well, be patient. Over the course of 90 days to 6 months, you can really get a feel if the person's going to be a good fit or not. In fact, most big companies, including most of the corporate jobs I've had, you don't even really get the job until 90 days after they've reviewed you to see if you're a good fit before they actually offer you a contract. So if they have to be patient, you have to be patient too. For busy people, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. They already have time management skills. If you put up an ad and somebody responds, I'm available any day, 24 hours a day, just shoot me a text and I'll respond right away. And don't hire that person, because that's the wrong kind of person, because busy people usually are the people who are going to do the best job, and they already know how to manage their time. So it's important to understand if somebody is always available, there's usually a problem with that. That's a red flag for me. My favorite tip, let me know in the comment section below if you want me to expand on any of these specific topics. But number 9 is find somebody with quick serve experience. I grew up in the restaurant business. My parents had a greasy spoon, and food was expected immediately. People would come in, they would want a breakfast sandwich and a coffee to go. Our restaurant was on a college campus, so people needed stuff right away. People who have experience working in this type of environment, that makes reselling look super easy, because we're talking about inanimate objects here that are not mad, that are not in a hurry, versus people who want their stuff perfectly right now. If you can find somebody with quick serve experience, either at Starbucks or McDonald's, those are the top 2 in my opinion. They transfer their skills directly in the reselling to help you with photography and listing. I would take somebody who's been a manager at McDonald's over a professional photographer any day of the week. 10 might be a little bit controversial, but I don't care, because it's my YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is not what Chris says is the most important or the best. It's just my own experience. Okay, so number 10 is I do not pick people who have previous eBay experience. For me, that means I have to unlearn their habits. I want them to do things the way that I do things. If you have previous eBay experience, it scares me, because I'm like, why didn't you just continue with your own store? I'm not really afraid of people taking this idea and then running on their own. I've had a couple of people do that, and if they do that, good for them, but honestly, this is a lot more difficult than people think. So rarely do I find someone that's like, you know what, I want to invest tens of thousands of dollars into an inventory system and get really, really good at listing and shipping. Not really. Usually I get people who are like, I'd love to make an extra $100 to $1,000 a week, sign me up. I don't really get those people who just want to go out on their own. Those people are not the same people applying to minimum wage work online. So I try to avoid people who have previous experience in eBay. If they do, I'm like, go ahead and shoot me a link to your store. Give me an idea of what your listings look like and your personal success rate. And usually when I look at their stores, it's easy to say, no, it's not a good fit. But again, this doesn't always apply. Just for me, I feel like I would like somebody fresh. This video and all my videos are sponsored by my reseller field guide, which is $35 with code YouTube in the description below. It goes over my 8 systems for building an online store. It would really help me out if you support the channel and pick up that guide today. It's $35. I appreciate you guys. Until next episode, make progress daily.